Because of fittingness. It's fitting that the Son of God becomes Son of Man to make sons of men like Son of God. It's fitting that the image of the Father takes on the image of humanity to refit the image of humanity to the image of the Father. It's fitting that the wisdom of the Father through whom he created all things is the one through whom the Father recreates all things. It's an argument from fittingness. It's not some metaphysical reason. And I'd even argue Dialogue with Trifo chapter 114 isn't saying what you think it's saying. Do you have like good examples of Eusebius of Caesarea like denying homoousion, stuff like that after?
Yeah, so I mean that would probably be helpful if we want to go through some of the texts. I mean, for example, me when I deal with Eusebius, I'm well aware of the claim that some Christians who would want to defend him would say, well, he had these certain positions before Nicaea, then he accepted the creed, he signed off on it, and then he was essentially orthodox after that. So that's why in my chapter on him, I only focus on passages that we know for sure were written by him after Nicaea. And that's why, Sam, the book that we were going through together earlier, both of those were the last, the final two theological treatises that Eusebius wrote. So that's why I would just go to them and we can kind of see what his final view was.
Right here. This is the book.
Yeah.
And Agen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as Oriental Orthodox, I don't think we venerate Eusebius of Caesarea.
We don't.
Yeah,
we don't.
Is there a reason for that, or?
No, it's just veneration. You require doing something positive. He's just there, kind of.
He was really important for church history, right? I mean,
yeah. By the way,
preserved a lot of stuff uniquely.
Yep. The Syriac Church reveres him for that, actually, especially for his history. But he's not in any kind of cynic saw or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So people understand what Jake is saying, so I can help them. This work against Marcellus, ecclesiastical theology.
Those are two texts, Sam. Yes. Against Marcellus and ecclesiastical
theology. Yeah. So you're saying ecclesiastical theology is written after Nicaea?
Both of them, yeah. They're written. I think they're written just shortly before his death, around 336 or something like that. They're the from what I've seen from scholarship, they say these are the two final in terms of theological treatises that he's ever written.
That's correct. So, I can show you. I can show you from these treatises. He actually goes a step beyond even a lot of Nicene writers. Do you know the whole controversy surrounding the term autotheos? Yeah. In his ecclesiastical theology, he says that en auton, the Son exists as God. And then he calls the Father autotheon in the same passage. And then he says in every way, he's like the one who begot him. And then he calls him specifically auton theon in Book 10, Chapter 4, Paragraph 16. So even in these last works, I doubt he rejects the homoousion formula. If he did, I would have seen it.
Okay, so there is one passage where he seems to reject that. Let me bring it up.
By the way, you said auton theon, but that would be God of himself. How's it translated in English? Because this is in English, it doesn't have the Greek.
Yeah, look, I don't know how this translation
will tell you what the passage is, Sam, and then you could look it up in the
whatever passage you want me to look up, give me the page number.
So the one specifically saying the Son of God is self-God, Book 10, Chapter 4, Paragraph 16.
Self-God?
Auton theon is the Greek.
Yeah, that's the Greek. We don't have the Greek, brother.
What is the chapter again?
So it's Book 10.
Oh, here it goes, right
4, Paragraph 16.
Hold on. I think I know what you're referring to, but I'm not going to be able to get you the Greek. It's not in Greek. But nonetheless,
I have the Greek.
Okay, but we need the English so I can find it in this document.
Let me look for it.
Yeah. All right. Himself.
Sam, the passage that I'm thinking about is on page 269 in your text.
All right, let me get there. 269. Okay, guys, let me go to 269. Guys, I'm just the moderator, guys. I don't chime in. These three will be talking. 269.
Yes.
Right down here, right?
Yeah, right there. It's right there at the top there. Yep. So he says, for it does not introduce two unbegottens or two things without source, as has been said many times by us, nor does it introduce two beings parallel to one another because of their equal glory, and for this reason not two gods, but it teaches one source and one God, and that the same is Father of the only begotten and beloved Son, just as it also teaches one image of the invisible God, which is the same as his only begotten and beloved Son. So, I mean, it doesn't come across as clear here in the text because um, this is translated in a particular way. But even the translator comments on this passage. Let me just
What
pull it
page
up.
number?
I'm
Probably the
just,
footnote
yeah,
at
I'm going
the
to get it
bottom.
for you in a second here. On page 44.
All right, that would be 66. Let me go here. All right.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see where it is on here.
Want me to go down? Let me know.
Yes, try to scroll down. I don't know. No, it's got to be on the first half. Trying to see. Let me just start reading there. So, Father and Son constituted two essences in the pre-Nicene period, and one may well ask whether Eusebius retained the functional equivalence of these terms, which even the anathemas attached to the Nicene Creed endorsed, thus rendering the terms interchangeable for multiple divine things. Three observations here. Wait, 3 observations are relevant here. First, nowhere in the anti-Marcellan works does Eusebius employ the Nicene watchword homoousion. At the same time, secondly, nowhere in the anti-Marcellan works do you find as bald a statement of the existence of multiple essences in the Christian Godhead as Marcellus accuses Eusebius of making in the pre-Nicene period. Yet, thirdly, there is at least one obscure passage in the ET, meaning the ecclesiastical theology, in which Eusebius may allude indirectly to the existence of multiple, though unequal, essences in the Christian Godhead. And then that you see that there, the footnote 220 is pointing to the passage we just read.
It's right here. Yeah. So you want me to read it or
Yeah,
Agen?
so it says, for it does not introduce two unbegottens or two things without source, as has been said many times by us, nor does it introduce two beings parallel to one another because of their equal glory. And for this reason, not two gods, but it teaches one source and God, and that the same is Father of the only begotten and beloved Son. So
We would say that's, by the way, we would say that's completely orthodox. The
Yeah,
Cappadocians repeat that.
and it's not allowed to disagree with that.
it's not allowed to do.
Yeah, we're all amening it. I'm amening it too.
The idea of the passage, is the Cappadocians argue the reason why there's not tritheism is because we don't affirm that there's three unoriginate competing heads that have equality in that class.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
And
I know that.
there can't be three beings either. There's one being. So when the first page that we read that had the full quote, that where this one's ending at beloved Son, at the full one it's very clear. There's not I don't know if Sam, if you can go back
What
to
was the page again? The other one?
you had written 289, I think, last time you wrote.
That's what he said, 289?
You wrote 289 in that thing.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was a little bit down. It's 268, 269. It was 269.
Okay, then that's all right. Let's go there. All right, then we gotta go. You can read it then, because I gotta save my voice. I'm not young like you. 269.
Yeah.
All right. Right here, you want to read? Go ahead.
So so it says the invisible God, which is this is where it cut off last time, just as it also teaches one image of the invisible God, which is the same as his only begotten beloved, which is exactly what Nicaea 2 was saying he didn't believe, that he's not the full icon of the Father. Here he's saying he is the full image.
Yeah, so you guys asked, I mean, is it Agen or Agen? Sorry.
Agen.
Agen. You asked about homoousion. This is, from my reading of the text, this is the only relevant passage that you like in terms of the wording that is you could try to make an argument on. But definitely, I agree with the translators of the text. I haven't seen anywhere where he positively uses homoousion. So it seems that, um, I mean, it seems that he still preferred not to use that term.
I 100%
Nevertheless,
agree.
I don't think it really matters though, because I
Let
don't
me
think
just let me just let me comment on that. I 100% agree with you. He didn't. It was not his preferred term, but the whole point of the argument, he utilized it once, and there's no sign that he retracted it. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but I think the important point is not necessarily the word, but what he understands and means by the word. That's why I think it's important to look at other texts rather than just seeing does he use homoousion or
I
not.
agree. No,
It's
not just the term, but remember from the letter. In the letter itself, he defined what he means. That he has an essence that makes him completely uncreated. He cannot be likened to any creature. That's the argument Eusebius makes, and it looks like he keeps that to the very end.
okay. So if we go to 1 second here, I want to get your guys' opinion on a couple passages here. Um,
FY, if any time, Jake, you have any Christians you want to talk metaphysics, I can moderate for you guys because I'm not metaphysician. So you let me know. You can use my channel.
okay, 1 second.
Likewise with you guys. If you guys have any debates you want to do, my channel is yours, Daniel. Shoot.
Thank you, Aziza.
All right, just remember you always be sub in my book. Vartan will be full because Vartan thinks he's the Wolverine of Armenia.
He deserves it.
Okay,
is.
can you go to page 228, Sam?
All right, that would be 248. Okay, because I got to go a couple of pages more. All right, let's go there. Okay, where do you want me to stop?
Yeah, there's just one line I'm looking for where it mentions that the Father's glory is superior to the Son's.
Okay, Father, and he knows.
Just like glory.
Right here, he shows the superiority of the Father's glory right here.
Yeah, and he shows the superiority of the Father's glory when he speaks of the one who has sent and of himself as having been sent and having come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me, who sent him. Sorry. And there are a few other passages where it seems that Eusebius does not hold the view that the Son has equal glory as the Father, and even the commentators actually pick up on this. Let me bring a quote from him. So. Where is it here? Sorry, this is totally impromptu, so I'm just
Don't worry about it. Yeah,
looking at this here.
Take your time.
Yeah.
It's amazing. 2 impromptu sessions, man. Only God could plan this. So I had no idea. By the way, guys, I didn't know Agen and Daniel was going to join, nor Jake. I was going to talk about, the council does condemn Eusebius and so on. That's all I was about. God had other plans.
Mm-hmm.
So people are loving it.
Okay, so yeah, then the passage from them is on what page is this? If you go to page 46, Sam, can you go to page 46 in the text?
All right, let's go back. Hold on, let me go down. All right. The Son has a lesser glory than the Father. Do you want me to start at 45 and read it?
If you want, you can. I'm not trying to hide anything.
No, so people can know what you're quoting. He will assert, among other statements, meaning Jesus, he will assert, Eusebius, will assert, among other statements, that the Son has a lesser glory than the Father. There's another point agreeing with Arius and Asterius. So that's what he's asking.
Right there, just sorry to cut you, Sam, but right there, the author is understanding that in the way that I am, that it's in agreement with Arius. It's that he's affirming a type of subordinationist position that's not merely relational.
but he's talking about his opponent's position because it seems on ecclesiastical theology, he says verbatim, and if you can control F this, Sam,
Yeah.
honor
Can we
with
just
the
finish reading this
Son of
part
Man.
first and then go to this?
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
He's saying Eusebius seems to be agreeing with Arius, so I got to be fair with Jake. So keep that in mind. He's saying
Yeah.
Eusebius is saying this statement and agreeing with Arius and Asterius, because Eusebius often agrees with Asterius against Marcellus. That's what he's saying, the translators. So that's what Jake is saying, that they're saying this.
Right, and
this
then he continues there. He says, and that he is, as in Asterius, obedient to the Father and prays to the Father as his God. He is constantly presented as the subordinate agent of his God and Father, as in Asterius, helping the Father in the work of creation. I mean, you can continue reading, but basically, I'm trying to show.
Let me read the other part to confirm what you're saying. They're saying it's Eusebius. While recent scholarships correctly said that this aspect of Eusebius thought, so it's saying it is Eusebius thought.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
Okay.
Eusebius.
Yeah.
It's
That's what the scholar's
Eusebius'
saying.
view that you just let me just finalize what I'm trying to say. What I'm saying is that Eusebius is saying that the Father's glory is superior to the Son's, and that this is supported by the translators of the text.
So that's what he's saying again. So
Yeah,
what do you got to say?
Jake froze.
Yeah. So
Oh, he froze. Okay, well done.
correct me if I'm wrong. The scholar's commenting on the first passage. Should I wait for him?
Let him come back on. Hold on, before he goes.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Sorry, guys. I think I lost you for about 20 seconds.
He did. So repeat that part you were saying, that the scholars agree with you that the Father has greater glory than the Son. So that's where you stopped and you cut off.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I was just saying that that's what it seems to be from the passage that I initially went to, and then they're understanding it in the same way, and they're understanding it in a real ontological subordinationist paradigm. It's not some mere, relational subordination.
Right. On basically the passage, the superior glory of the Father, right? That's the passage you think the scholar's commenting on?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. If you can do me a favor, Sam, Control F, honored, because the passage that Jake cited, the next paragraph, it was talking about his opponent's view on the flesh of Christ. So I think that's to do with the nuance. So no. Just Control F, honored with the Father's glory. HONO, the English spelling, not the Canadian.
Honored, you mean OUR or N?
No you. NOR.
Okay, brother.
I have other. I'll let you go
honored
on,
with
but
the
I have
divinity.
Honored with what?
With the divinity.
Okay, put it honored with an ED. Nothing's coming out.
Oh, hold on.
Sam, I could just tell you the page that I told him it was on before.
Okay.
Would that help?
No, because
right
it's
here.
different.
No,
right there.
because it's not spelled OU. It's ORED, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
Thus, God was in Christ reconciling the world to himself. He underwent the fleshly economy, although he was and pre-existed before it, having been honored with the dignity of the paternal glory.
Divinity. Right? Divinity.
Yeah. So from the passage you cited, talking about the superior glory of the Father, nothing in the text negates it from the Son. The paragraph right after, his own opponent is talking about the flesh of Christ. And here he's saying, prior to the enfleshment, he has that paternal glory. He's honored with the divinity of the paternal glory.
We see what the scholars are saying, Jake, but let's see, because it's the same book. So let's see what Eusebius himself says.
Exactly.
If you can go to page 329, and then after that 336.
Okay, hold on. Let me just do.
Yeah, and I have two more passages related to this that I think settle it.
Okay, 329. Okay, and then we'll take Jake's. Okay, and so where do you want me to go?
329 right here. There's a part, but he will be, right here, the last part. But he will be all in a manner proportionate to the capacity of each, distributing different aspects of his divinity to all, but he will preserve exclusively for his only begotten Son the excellent and paternal glory and honor and kingdom that cannot be shared with all the rest. And one more, 336, Sam, please.
Hold on 1 second, brother. Let me see. 336 would be 3. You confused me. So hold on. What page am I? Hold on. Let me find out.
Just 329 you were.
Yeah, 360. Let me do 360. So you said 336?
Yes.
All right. Where you want me to stop?
I actually wanted to go to that one anyway, and I think it supports my
So,
view.
so then the Father and the Son, where is
Where?
it?
Where am I looking? Up.
Where is it?
For this reason,
Yeah,
he
right
said,
here, right here.
"Glory that you have given me."
The second paragraph.
This
Yeah,
here?
yeah. So
Okay,
then
go ahead.
the Father and the Father and the Son are one according to the community of glory. In giving a share of this to his disciples, he also made them worthy of the same unity.
Yeah. So if you
that the community of glory is one from the Father and the Son.
Yeah, but
Alright.
if you read right above it, it says, your name's Daniel. Okay, that the Father is in him in the same way as he also wishes to be in us. Not that he himself and the Father are one by virtue of one hypostasis, but that since the Father has given to him a share in his own glory, he also likewise, imitating the Father, gives to his own a share in it. So if you see the comparison being made there, in my reading, it seems as the Son is not given the full glory of the Father. He's given a share of it in the same way that creation is of the Son. There's
Share,
another. Go ahead.
to answer that very quickly, share just refers to communion. Like this is just a repetition of John chapter 17. The glory which you gave me before the world, I have given them, right? Nothing at all, either in Eusebius or in the Gospel of John, takes that comparison to be a univocal one. And I mean, we demonstrate that. He said prior to the enfleshment, he did not consider equality with God, but had that paternal glory in the divinity of the Father, which is obviously something Eusebius wouldn't apply to the created order.
Yeah, but
Okay,
even right now,
go
when
to-
Sam showed 182, he just said it was pre-existent.
Yeah, that's true.
Let me explain what you guys are saying so people can follow you. Okay.
Sure.
Jake is saying that here Jesus shares in the glory of the Father, like we share, believers share in the glory of the Son. So sharing in the glory of the Son doesn't mean we possess the full glory of the Son. Similarly, sharing in the glory of the Father cannot mean he possesses the full glory of the Father. This is what Jake is saying.
Yeah.
Your response was to say sharing doesn't mean the degree. It just means that we partake of it. But now I'm now going to play because I want your response. If the glory of the Son is that of the glory of the Father, is that what he's giving to creatures? Because it says the glory you gave me, I gave to them.
So are you asking Jake or us?
I'm asking you guys to respond because right here, the passage that he's quoting, Eusebius
John
says,
chapter 17.
the glory that you have given me, I've given them. John 17:22. So is this meaning that the glory that the Son had, which is a paternal glory, showing their equal divinity, is that the glory that he's giving to the creatures?
So John 17 makes three statements that I think demonstrate the same rule throughout. If you read from the beginning, he says, just as I am sent, so I'll send them in John chapter 17, right?
17.
According to the Gospel of John, that's uniquely applied to the Son. John chapter 6, verse 38, that he's sent by coming down from heaven, right? Just as I am not of this world, so they are not of this world. Obviously, the context of the Gospel of John, John chapter 1, verse 10, he says, the world was made through him, the world did not know him. You are from below, I am from above, right? He repeats that over and over, but then he applies it to his disciples. And then he says, the glory which I shared with you before the world was, John chapter 17, verse 5. And then in verse 22, he applies to the disciples. And then he says, just as we are one, so then they will be one. Just John chapter 10, verse 30, rip straight. We all know the context. The Pharisees pick up stones. And then he applies it to his disciples. So the priestly prayer, when it keeps repeating that statement, just as, it's not to a level of degree, but that the way that the Son is the Son by nature, we become sons by grace. And I think Eusebius is repeating that pretty explicitly. He says this paternal glory, he did not count equality as a thing to be grasped, something to be taken advantage of. And it's according to the divinity that he has this paternal glory. Whereas as it's expressed regarding the disciples, the way that the disciples have this glory is through the Son itself. So the way that the Father communicates it to the Son cannot be the way that the Father communicates it to us, because the only way the Father communicates it to us is through the instrument of the Son, which places him already on a different tier.
Just like we're not sent by Christ the same way he was sent by his Father.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, Jake, if you want to say something,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to go to one more passage on this glory thing, although glory is not explicitly mentioned, but I think it ties into what's going on here. If you
What
can go
page?
to page 252.
All right, that would be 273. I see it. That's always off. Okay, 1 second. All righty then. Right here.
Um, okay, yeah. So I'm just going to start from the top where it says, "See that he who is over all, with whom the word was, is God, and hear that the word himself is God, as an image of the God, and an image not as in inanimate material, but as in a living son, who also has been made like in the closest way possible to the archetypal divinity of the Father." So to me, this is also going in line with the other passages that his glory and his attributes and who he is as close as possible to the Father, but not of the same level.
But that's exactly the point, as close as possible. If he's already expressed it in his corpus, that the closest possible is that he's not a creature. I mean, just taking him at his own
No,
words, as close as possible would include his prior view.
no, but if he says close as possible, that means they're not the same. It's not the same.
According both to Saint Basil and the rest of the Cappadocians, they say you can say the Son is like the essence of the Father, and that would be just as equivalent as homoousios, because as close as possible includes homoousion. Where does he present the logical contradiction with homoousion?
Yeah,
Possibility has to do with whether there would be a contradiction derived, which he doesn't express. He already had that as one of his views in a letter of his.
But why would he say close as possible if he believed that they are actually the same?
Because
Let
he
me
believes
ask
they're
you a
actually the.
question,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
because I want to ask him, because you know this, because he's dealing with Marcellus, who collapses the word as the same hypostasis or hypostasis as the Father. Couldn't it be fair to say that he wants to avoid any possibility of Jesus being identical to the Father, that they're the same hypostases? So that's why he's using the language, because the context is Marcellus, who is arguing like Sibelius.
Exactly.
yeah,
I think
absolutely,
that's
absolutely,
a
Sam.
that's a good. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The
Sorry.
Cappadocians say this, and Severus. There is a quote of similar essence without difference. You'll find this among them.
Yeah, yeah. The fact he's saying as close as possible. You're right. The very context determines it would be in a way that negates um, a Sabellianism, but also in a way that teaches the highest form that doesn't reach Sabellianism, which is why he also says in Against Marcellus. This is the Aton Theon passage I was talking about. I don't know if I'll find it in the PDF, but I had this saved months back. He says after he says that the Son is existing as God in himself, he says he's in every way most like the one who has begotten him. So I think the passage itself is a proof. As close
Yeah,
as possible is that's indicative of homoousion.
yeah. If you can just stay on the same page, Sam, there's another part of the quote that's relevant. If you can just
All right.
scroll down a little bit. 1 second. Sorry. Give me 1 second here.
It was easier when I used to be a Protestant and just argue from the Bible.
Okay, so it says the Father and God of the universe. If you see that in the middle of the page here, yeah,
Oh, no,
yeah, the Father and God of the universe, who is transcendent, however, is unapproachable and unfathomable to all because of his ineffable and invisible intelligence, for which reason he has also been said to dwell in unapproachable light. But the one who is unapproachable and unfathomable to all would be the Father, while there is the other who is nearer to all, since indeed he governs all things with the Father's consent. For which reason it has been said, not of the Father, but of the Son, that he was in the world, and the world was made through him. And the one was beyond, and continue, and the one was beyond the universe and over all things, dwelling in an unapproachable light, while the other is omnipresent through all things and is in all things by his careful providence. Thus, only in this way can the image of the human word be compared to him. But since these things have been shown by us, it is fitting for somebody who wants to learn to ask. So it seems to be, and this is kind of ties in with my general view of what I think is going on a lot between earlier church fathers or church writers. You have this concept of the Father being the invisible God and the Son being the visible God of the Father, and only the Son can become incarnate. The Father can't possibly become incarnate. And the reason why is because they were, in my view, right? Of course, you guys can disagree with this, but the Father was seen as too distant and too beyond in order to become incarnate. And that's in line with the fact that they had different essences. It's not as many modern Trinitarians would claim that, oh, the Son becomes incarnate instead of the Father merely based on some arbitrary act of the will, or, you know, there's some agreement based upon something else. No, it's because the Father and Son are fundamentally different in their nature and who they are, such that one is completely transcendent and beyond everything, as this passage is saying, and then the Son is not. On the other hand, the Son is omnipresent through all things, and the Father is transcendent even beyond that. He has a totally different type of transcendence. So I think that this is a fob off of earlier logos Christology or logos theology, like what we see in Justin Martyr and earlier figures, where you have a clear distinction between the invisible God the Father and the visible God the Son.
Now, Agen and Daniel, don't forget his points. You're going to respond. Just one thing I want to again ask, because I've read the book as well, and I had to get the book. I think it was because of Greggy, not you. I think Greg Stafford, the guy who loves me. Again, Jake, in the context, he's trying to refute Marcellus, who's saying that the word in God was not a hypostasis. He depersonalizes the word. And the analogy, because he says a human analogy, like my word that comes from me is simply utterance and a command. He goes, the analogy breaks down because the word is not something that's in God and it's not personal. The word didn't simply take on a personality, became flesh, because he goes on to argue this word was living and conscious because he appeared to the prophets as a person. And that means it cannot be impersonal and identical to the hypostases of the Father. He must be a distinct hypostasis even before the enfleshment. So if we take that in the context, isn't Eusebius' point different? He's trying to refute Marcellus and saying, no, the word only had a personal identity when he was enfleshed. Prior to that, he was simply the same hypostasis as the Father. And he's saying, no, the word already was distinct from the Father, and he was already speaking before he became flesh, because that's what he says right here. The word that came to Isaiah and Micah. Wouldn't that change the dynamics of the argument?
No, I think because this text is on ecclesiastical theology, so it's not directly addressing Marcellus. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that I think the more obvious interpretation of the passages, and there's other passages too, like where he says there's another besides the invisible God. I'm not denying that he believed that the Son was divine and pre-existent prior to his birth. Of course he was. But how do we account for the fundamental difference between the Son being omnipresent and the Father not being omnipresent, him being transcendent even beyond omnipresence? I think the only way you can account for that is understanding them as fundamentally different in their nature or their being.
I'm gonna let you guys because I don't want to.
Yeah. It seems like you misread. If you go back very top of page 253, we're there, right there.
Which one?
The top of page 253. So, yeah.
Here?
So start at the end of 252 and then 253.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. He says, for which reason it has been said, not of the Father, but of the Son, that he was in the world and the world was made through him. So I think reading a Middle Platonic framework, I know where you're talking. You're trying to connect like with Justin Martyr, specifically chapter 114. You know, he says he doesn't have hands and feet like a composite being or a soul, and on this reason you allege, you know, it was the Father who appeared. Uh, I can address that, but first I'll address Eusebius. It doesn't look like he's dealing with a Middle Platonic framework. He cites he was in the world was made through him. So he's taking a particular exegesis, regardless of whether it's right or wrong, of First Timothy, right? Dwelling in unapproachable light. Regardless of whether it's right or wrong, he's taking the exegesis and he's saying because the Son is incarnate, now the Son is more nearer to us than the Father who is unincarnate. And if you keep reading, he was in the world was made through him, the one was beyond, keep going down, the universe and over all things, dwelling in unapproachable light, while the other is omnipresent through all things and is in all things by his careful providence. Thus, only in this way can the image of the human word be compared to him. So even here, he doesn't subject the Son in any way that some predicate the Father has and some positive feature that the Son lacks. All he's saying is that the Son was the one who was in the world, the Father wasn't, and the Son is nearer to us. I think reading a framework that isn't explicitly there is adding into the text.
Who's the one that was beyond the universe and over all things?
It would be the Father.
Right. It says the one was beyond the universe and over all things, dwelling in unapproachable light. That's the Father. While the other is omnipresent through all things and is in all things by his careful providence. Is the Father omnipresent through all things and in all things?
So this is just a taxonomical difference. It's a difference in their order and economy. Because you said, by the way, you might have misspoke, but earlier you said that one is omnipresent, the other isn't. Here he's saying the Son is omnipresent. He just says it in a different taxis. One is above, one is through.
Okay. I'll just say it then because we're not like debating, but it's obvious. He explicitly is referring to the Son. The Son is omnipresent through all things and is in all things by his careful providence. Whereas the Father is described as beyond the universe and over all things, dwelling in unapproachable light. If those are the exact same descriptions, and they lead to the exact same content of who the Father and Son are, then the passage wouldn't make any sense. He's trying to make a distinction between the Father and Son in these.
I'm not disagreeing. There is a difference, but he tells you why the paragraph prior, because one of the persons is in the world. The Father isn't in the world.
But why? That's the point. But why is one of the persons in the world? The reason why one of the persons is in the world instead of the other is because one
incarnated.
No. Yeah, but why? Why did one incarnate instead of the other?
Let me try to see if I can, because I don't want to chime in, but I like your questions. I like them. Obviously, if you read Eusebius and you have, Eusebius doesn't think that the Father just hands off of creation, that he is not actively sustaining creation. Eusebius doesn't believe that. The fact that Jesus is the Word means he comes from the Father. If he's from the Father, he is of the Father. And so that though the Father is transcendent, it's by means of his Word that he's actively sustaining creation. So the language is simply to show the Word is not the hypostasis of the Father. Yes, he's transcendent, but he has not taken his hands off of creation, because the Word, though from him, inseparable from him, it's by that Word that he's now providentially preserving creation. It's simply his way of trying to refute the fact that the Word is identical to the Father.
Yeah, the paragraph before, I think, makes it clear. He says that the reason why the Son is through all by being in all is because he was sent into the creation to bestow gifts. That's what the paragraph before prior says. He doesn't say this is the case because of some Middle Platonic framework where the Father, his hypostasis is ineffable, but the Son is a created, contingent, feeble creature who is able to interact with creation by being of a similar substance. That's not in the text. I mean, you can try to ascertain that by taking, someone centuries prior, your reading of him, apply it to Eusebius, but it doesn't look like that's in the passage.
I'm not just doing that, going off of someone else. I think it's clear the reason why. And if you look at the constant distinction, it's not just one author. Eusebius is just another example of that. There is a fundamental distinction between the Father and Son in who they are, which accounts for why the Son becomes incarnate rather than the Father. If I asked you why why does the Son become incarnate instead of the Father? What is your view? What is the
Because of fittingness. Because of fittingness. It's fitting that the Son of God becomes Son of Man to make sons of men like Son of God. It's fitting that the image of the Father takes on the image of humanity to refit the image of humanity to the image of the Father. It's fitting that the wisdom of the Father through whom he created all things is the one through whom the Father recreates all things. It's an argument from fittingness. It's not some metaphysical reason. And I'd even argue Dialogue with Trifo chapter 114 isn't saying what you think it's saying. He's not saying that the Son interacts because he's created or he has some composite substance. He's saying the Jews, because they believe the Father has those properties, they say he's composite created, and because they say that he was the one in creation, the Father has all these properties. But he says you have the whole system wrong. This is the fundamental issue where you don't assume a Trinitarian basis. He never in Dialogue with Trifo applies them to the Son. He only negates them from the Father because he say the Jews teach it.
Okay, so do you believe that it's possible for the Father to become incarnate?
From a metaphysical basis, it's like the question, like, is it possible, like, for God to make a bunch of donuts with an engraving of like some children's character, right? Metaphysically, sure, but fittingly, it doesn't make sense. From an argument from fittingness, it would be done.
I disagree. I think if you read them carefully, they're not making a claim merely based on fittingness of the distinction of why one becomes incarnate rather than the other. It is an underlying metaphysical assumption or principle that they're working with.
Used to have that position. So, for example, I debated Dean Response, and that was my old position. I retracted that when I reread chapter 114. He says, they say that the Father enters creation and is thus created, has fingers, has feet, like a composite being. But he never applies those to the Son. He only negates them from the Father because the Jews are applying it to the Father.
So
he literally says that not even the person with the smallest intelligence would assert that the Father appeared on a little portion of the earth.
Yes.
So why is he saying that? Why is he saying
because the Jews believe that?
What's that?
Because the Jews believe that. He's saying that's what they're teaching.
Why is he saying that nobody with intelligence would assert that?
Because it's ridiculous.
Why is it ridiculous? That's the point.
Because the Father is God.
Yeah, and so is the Son.
Exactly. You just made my point for me.
The point is, the reason why it's ridiculous is because there's an underlying metaphysical principle.
Where does he say that?
I'm explaining it to you. If you assume that it's merely based on fittingness, then the argument wouldn't make any sense.
So
how does it make sense
to understand you?
It's only based on fittingness. So then somebody could have turned around and responded to Justin and say, why would you say nobody with the smallest intelligence would assert that it was the Father? Surely it's possible for the Father to become incarnate. There's nothing contradictory or strange about that idea. It's just that the Son was deemed fitting to be the one that became incarnate. So the whole logic wouldn't make any sense.
The whole idea, he says.
I don't think it's just about deemed fitting. It's the whole plan of salvation, because you see in Daniel, he's called the Son of Man. In Luke, Adam is called the Son of God. Yet Christ is the new Adam. So that's what we mean.
Let me articulate. Let me steelman his position. Yes, we know that prophetically Jesus called Son of Man, but that's something that the Father could have assumed. So he's asking, why didn't the Father assume that? If you're saying fittingness, so his argument is, I know Jesus did it, but he's saying that the ante-Nicene Father, ante, not anti, they said because the Father's too transcendent to come in contact with the world, but the Son, on the other hand, that's his role. So he's saying, doesn't that show that they're differentiating in their divinity? That's what he's trying to say. That's his argument.
Yeah. So you're citing basically chapter 127 and chapter 114. I've had these passages cited all the time. The first one, he's saying, fancying as your teachers suppose that it was the Father who incarnated or appeared on earth. And then he says it's on the basis of their own metaphysical commitments. He's saying they have metaphysical commitments that in order to account for the Father appearing on creation, they say he's a created composite being, with hands and feet and legs. And then in chapter 127, he reparrots saying it's ridiculous to even assert that the Father has these predicates for that purpose. That's the whole context. This is after chapter 114.
But does the
And then
Son
he
have
says-
the predicates?
He never applies it. He makes the argument. You have the whole system wrong by thinking it was the Father in the first place. Let me show you how inerrant you are. You have the person wrong in the first place to make those metaphysical claims about the Father.
Yeah, but bro, his whole argument there is trying to prove that there's another besides the Father who appeared, and it's in that context that he's saying it can't be the Father, but somebody else did appear that way, and here's who that is. It's the Son. So of course he's applying those predicates to the Son. He understands them as fitting for the Son to be predicated with those things, but not the Father. That's the whole argument.
You would have.
Let me just tell what, yeah, Mr. Wilson, you're getting what Jake is saying, but he's saying it from the ante-Nicene fathers. So understand what his argument is. He's saying Justin Martyr and others like Tertullian, they would argue that the reason why the Son comes in is because the Father is too transcendent, majestic to enter the world. This is Jake's argument. And he's saying, doesn't that prove that the divinity of the Son is different from the divinity of the Father? So that's what he's saying. So you guys understand what he's trying to say. If the Father and the Son are equal divinity, then that means for Justin to say the Father remains in the super celestial places and he's too majestic to enter the world makes no sense if they're equal divinity, because then that would be true of the Son as well.
Yeah, I can prove in Justin he thinks it's true of the Son. Did you know he says the Son is boundless?
I'm sorry.
That not even he can be bound and circumscribed in his divinity.
Okay. I mean, I don't mind.
Let me say why.
You can go ahead, but I just want to. I want to go.
It'll be a quick sentence. It'll be a quick sentence. He says the Son is boundless divinity, and that the term God indicates the ineffable, and then he applies just theos unqualified indicates the ineffable, and then he applies it to the Son.
He applies what? Ineffable?
Yeah, he says theos itself, the reason why it's called theos is because of its ineffability. And in his apology, he says we can't even ascribe to the Son a term, even Christ, because he himself is ineffable. So he calls him boundless and ineffable.
Okay, good. So that's good because I wanted to say I think we should try to get back to Eusebius.